So the first parsha means to me is that the message is our inherency is completely holy, and the blocks that we have, he will help us get out of them no matter what, as long as we participate in the process, as long as we use the right tools. In other words, the system is built for Hatzlacha, to get to the highest place of Kedusha. Even though you have all these incredible paros and mitzrayims and things in front of you, right? The system is rigged. You're holy, he's there, he gives you the tools, you'll be matzliach. Okay? What does it mean to you, that first parsha?
I am not very sure. Like, I kind of never really thought about it, but what it really means, I just see the words say there, like it's talking about Mitzrayim and like I took you out and I did the Makat Bechorot, so like
Mat Bechorot is not in the first parsha. The first parsha all talks about is that he took you out b'chor Yad, right? And keep this avoda of Pesach going on, Shmos Perek Gimel. The avoda of Pesach that you did then, keep it going. And tell your son, this is the reason why I got out of Mitzrayim.
because they kept this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Chametz and matzah and Sipor Yitzias Mitzrayim and make sure you remember that every single day.
I take from it like a lot that like the film is for you to remember things, like you're actually like doing something as a remembrance, and that is what helps you remember it.
There's also a cool thing in the words, Laman tir Torah Hashem beficha, which means I think there's a very big difference between things you think about and you talk about.
Yeah.
I think the way to describe the two differences is one is an idea and one is a belief. Because you have ideas in your head, they don't connect to what you speak about, what you're really holding. So what you're naturally holding, right? Of course you're trying to manipulate somebody, you can say any idea. But the natural process of where you're holding, your speech, is a reflection of where your thoughts are going naturally, right? So if you're naturally talking about stuff, right, that means that the ideas that are put in your brain impact how you live, where you're holding yourself, where your ideas, where your emotions, where the things are meaningful to you, right? So the man tiras Tosham Beficha, he's saying, the matar is not just to have these ideas be in your head, right? He's saying that the ideas should be something which is mitchalchel, both that it should be planted on your arm and planted on your eyes, because both of those are the things that caused you to have these concepts in life. In other words, if the concepts are part of your action, and the concepts impact what you see, right? You know that the Torah says, "Ayu totovas ben einecha," right? So, ben einecha seems to be over here, right?
Right.
Chazal means over here. Well, the nerve endings of the eyes go like this. So actually, the places between there are two eyes, in their core, are on your head, on your head. Meaning to say that superficially, you would think you want to impact the eyes, you start over here, right? But that's doesn't have anything to do with the eyes. The eyes go deeper.
Go back.
So the core of the eyes represents what you see, right? So if the ideas go bein einecha, and that means they hit to the things that you're looking at and you see in the world, and you start seeing, let's say, for example, practically, So what is this matzah thing? What is this chametz thing? What is this Pesach thing? What is this tefillin thing? And you start seeing where it's going to take you to, right? That's going to take you out of the blocks in your life that prevent you from being true to yourself, prevent you from being the holy person that you naturally really are. And you see that, right? And then also your actions are influenced by these concepts, which is now you're going to act upon these concepts. You're going to be interested in doing mitzvahs of matzah and Pesach, and you're interested in wearing tefillin, right? You're going to actively go after there. So what's that going to do is impact where your being is, and that you'll see that by your wording, by your talk. What is your siach? What are the things you spend your time, schmoozing about?
So I have been struggling with this concept for in my head for a while, because a lot of these things make it feel like it's a system in order to keep you in a loop. Like, let's say the fact that we say Shema every night and every morning, it's a lot like when you manifest things and you set a daily time to set your goals and to go over them and it's basically like, so you stay inside the concept and you stay focused. So I was struggling a lot with fact of Kriya Shema and film, because I feel like it's just to keep you in things, and when you keep on repeating it again and again, it goes into your head and you remember it. And I sometimes I looked at it in a negative way,
like brainwash.
That it's like brainwash. Obviously, I still struggle with this, even though I'm in a different stage of life.
Well, this is cool like that, because what he's saying is, he's not saying think this. He's saying, look, this happened, right?
Right.
I took you out of Mitzrayim. Okay, that was a pretty powerful thing. You want that energy in your life? You choose. But it existed in time, right? And if it existed in time means it's accessible to anybody, because anything's in time. Like the atomic bomb, the fact that it existed in 1945 means it can exist in 2023. Why not?
Right.
So if leaving Mitzrayim is a thing, and you want it, this is the way to access it. You don't have to do it.
Right.
It's a formula. It's a spiritual formula.
But then, let's look at this week's Parsha because it's like, if you don't do things, you're gonna get a punishment. Which I understand from what we spoke earlier. It's all a reaction, and it's also the same thing that I just wrote in the song that I was talking about. Like, every move has its toll, everything has a reaction. And I understand the concept, but how do they work together? Like, if you want something, do it, but then if you don't do it, then you're gonna get a reaction, which is punishment.
Okay, so there's one step missing, which is we chose, both as Avram Avinu and as a nation, that we want to be intimately related to Hashem, which means that we have all kinds of perks, right? Being His, which is like everything happens to us supernatural, right? That relationship itself means that you have incredible, incredible power. It's like a person is a CEO of a company, and he gets to make decisions about all kinds of stuff, right? So that's a really an amazing thing. He can move the company. He can change its goals. He can do all kinds of incredible stuff with this company because he's in charge, right?
Right.
It's also true that if you make the wrong decision, you could topple the whole company, because that's your place, that's your role, right? If you're a general in the army and you can make a good plan, so you can win the war. You can also lose a lot of soldiers, right?
So is religion basically like black and white? Like,
a relationship is waxes and wanes. You're either close or far, by definition. So religion is a Christian concept. Religion means that you have a duty to God to be a servant, and if you don't do it, you're in trouble. That's what religion means. Judaism is a way of life, which means you should know you're in this world, okay? And let me tell you what this world is. This world is an expression of God. And you were gifted to have the highest experience of God that there is. That's a gift. Now, you can decide how that experience looks. Either it looks really intimate or really empty from Him. When something is empty from Him, it sucks. When you're really intimate Him, it's great. Now, you get to decide which reality you live in. It's totally up to you. So it's not a religion thing. It's just like when you're in a relationship with a woman, right? So you get to decide how much deep intimacy and pleasure there is, or how much real horrible fighting there is, and pain and distance and yearning and feeling not valuable and feeling that hate. You get to decide that. Depends on what you put in. So you won't have that level of pain, rejection, hate, feeling lack of value with any other woman in the world. The one you have an intimate relationship with, wow. It's like I always joke around with my male friends, and especially like the real powerful ones, right? Like this guy who's like a serious soldier, like, you know, I mean, he's like Rambo, right? And they're all pissing in their pants from their wives. It's like the scariest person in the world is this woman who's like this tall, right? What's she gonna do to you? I'll tell you what she's gonna do to you. Pull away, right? Because you push her away, that's what she's gonna be, and that is pain that is like not worth, right? Now, why don't you just say, listen, I want the good parts. I want this deep, intimate connection. But it doesn't work out. Okay, you know, we won't. Big deal. You know, let's just be friends, right? It doesn't work like that because there's such a close connection. When it goes away, it hurts like hell, right? That's a mashal of Hashem. I'm really with you guys. I'm totally in your life, and when I'm not in your life, I'm not in your life, and you're gonna feel it. You're gonna experience it, him being gone. And that has a lot of impact to it. Not only impact emotionally and spiritually, but even if you're dead on that level, you'll feel it physically to show you what it is.
Right.
All right? So, I don't think it's brainwash. I think it's a spiritual formula. This world is a relationship with God. There's many different facets of that relationship. You can be one of the Shivim, one of the 70 nations, and have a certain type of relationship with Him. And it can be very great. It can be very close. Right? You can be, but an intimate relationship that looks like husband and wife, we chose that one. And therefore the stakes are higher. Both directions. And what he's saying over here is a spiritual formula. Look, I really want to be in your life. I want to give you every single year another dose of what I gave you in Mitzrayim. Right? This is your core, your Kodesh. All the things that are in your way, I want to take you out of them. Which means it's power way above us. And I want to do this for you consistently every single year. You choose, if you do these systems, and not only that, you remind yourself, you live from the cognizance that these systems are the ones that help you get out of this thing, it'll work. If you don't want to do that, it won't work as well. It will not work at all? I don't know. It won't work as well for sure not. So now it's your choice. Right? I think it would be the opposite if he's saying, I want you to think this, think this, think this, think this, think this, think this. That would be controlling. I don't want to think that.
But that is like the ultimate effect of like Krishna every day, Tefilin, and like praying 3 times a day.
Well, let's say Kriya Shema, for example, because we're about to learn that, right? So how does Kriya Shema start?
Kriya Shema starts like, listen, Jews, your God is the only God.
What does it mean, listen? What are you listening to? He doesn't say, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Repeat this mantra 100 times. Doesn't say that. He says, listen, Jews. What are you hearing? If you listen, you'll hear this. He's telling you what Eitzah. Now, what are we listening to? Right? So, in that, you have to look at the Chumash. The way the Chumash is set up is that we're in Mishnah Torah, and Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu is going over all the things we had until now. And one of the things we had was Aseret HaDibros. Now, Aseret HaDibros was an experience, okay, that we don't necessarily relate to because we weren't there. So now Moshe Rabbeinu is doing Chazaras Hashir, and he's saying, listen to what that was. That was an experience of Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Listen to it. Right? Listen to the words of what it was. Because what did he do? He said, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. It means, I want to introduce myself. Okay? Which means if someone comes to you and says, I want to introduce myself to you. I am the CEO of the BlackRock. Okay? Which means I control half of the world's economy, basically. Okay? Now we know each other. Okay? Now we can have a relationship. Because you know who I am. So it says, I just want to tell you, Anochi, who am I? I want to introduce myself. I am the world. Everything you see in this creation, that's me. Ani Havaya. Not only that, I have a personal relationship with you that everything that you do, I pay attention to and react on my terms. Okay? And how do you, where do you see this before? Because that's why I took you out of Mitzrayim, right? So I'm invested in you. I have a relationship with you. Not you did this, therefore I did this. You didn't do anything in Mitzrayim. But the reason I took you out is because we're connected. We have a bris. I'm Elokecha. I already hold you as mine way before anything. Okay, so now you know who I am. I'm the world, and I love you. Okay, I'm basically personally involved in all of your life. Okay, and therefore I'll take care of you. That's who I am. So Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, Yidden, Jews, listen to what you were told. Okay, what does that mean? And he's going to say something very deep, which is Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Havaya Elokeinu, the one that said on Har Sinai that he is Havaya and he's Mashgiach L'Nashgacha Pratis. What you really have to hear about that is that he is the only one in the entire world, because what he did was he revealed himself when he revealed himself Anochi Havaya, I am the world. That means that every single part of the world can only be if he wants it to be that way. So that means there isn't anything in the whole Bria that doesn't work with what he wants. Nothing. Which means the biggest Russia that ever did the worst things in the world, the only reason he can do that is because Hashem let him and allows it to happen, and therefore it must be within the plan of what Hashem has in the world. So now, the answer to your question, is he telling you Hashem Elokeinu, he's saying Hashem Echad, Hashem Echad, Hashem Echad, Hashem Echad, so you repeat it until you believe it? No. He's saying, I want you to listen to something, okay, what the meaning of this is. Now you decide how much you relate to it, right? You decide. That's why Chazal say, when you put on Kriya Shema, the mitzvah of Kriya Shema is not just reading the words. That's just a way of getting somewhere. The mitzvah of Kriya Shema is Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shamayim, which means it's your reaction to hearing this thing. If you really heard it, right, what are you going to do with it? So Chazal are teaching you the way to get this, had the most benefit from this mitzvah, is to, if he's actually doing everything in the whole world and going with him is the only way anything happens is to go with what he wants, then it's kind of dumb not to do that, right? Because it's going to happen anyway. Right? So that's, Chazal are teaching you like how they're the Eini Ha'eda, they're the people who are leading us. They're like, if you really do this thing, you really read it, you really incorporate it into your psyche, you will naturally mekabel malchus shamayim. Right? What some people take it is like this. It's like, okay, it's a religion. Okay, so what I got to do is I wake up in the morning and I got to do this service. Okay, and I got to say Shema. And then I have to mekabel malchus shamayim. It's another mitzvah. And I have to do with kavanah. Okay, and I have to have the echad belong. So ready? It goes like this. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And they think, okay, ani kibalti ol malchus shamayim. I will do everything Hashem wants. Okay, that's one version of doing it. But I don't think that was intended. It's like, wow. Moshe Rabbeinu is talking to me, and he's saying to me, listen. So let's listen to the point. Hashem revealed himself and told us he's totally in everything in the world is him. Okay, you know what? I'm going to work with you. It's just realizing again and participating again. It's like if you wake up every morning and you want to have shalom bayis, okay? And there's a person who has different ritzonos than you. So every morning when you wake up, or you realize, I really want to have a great life, I'm going to work with her. Because the only way I'm going to have a shalom is if we both are happy. Right? So to remind yourself of that, it's really important to pay attention, to care about her feelings, and that's a good mantra for a person to have, right?
Right.
But it's not like do it. It's a realization. It's like realizing, right. Today I'm also in consciousness of this fact. That's what I think the words mean, Shema Yisrael, because realize what you heard. So now, the issue you brought up was that feels like brainwash. Now, I'm asking the way I described it. Is that any different?
Well, it makes sense, but it's still the same concept in a sense.
What I think, what you could look at it is, what are the mitos that would make a person want to do this? Right? The whole concept of mitzvahs is that Hashem is showing us that if you were refined, you would naturally do this. Okay? And if you have the mitos that are built like that, it'll come easy. And if you don't have the mitos built like that, it'll come hard. Okay? That's what Chaim Vital says in Shaarei Kedusha. So what are the mitos that would lend to a person wanting and on his own saying these words? And what are the mitos that you're talking about inside of you which feel uncomfortable?
Well, the difference between somebody that wants to do it is because you want to do it. But when it's set, like, you gotta do it then, you gotta do it then, and you gotta do it then, that is different.
Feel controlling.
Yeah. And I guess my problem with it is that, like, most people end up doing it without, like, really thinking.
Right. So one of the things that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in the Zohar was adding to us as clarity. He was saying the Torah is not when the word mitzvah doesn't mean you have to, because it's ridiculous. I don't have to. I don't want to. You have bechira. It's more like you're going to the doctor and the doctor says, if you have cholesterol problems, you got to stop eating eggs. Right? Do I have to? No, I don't do anything. It's a requirement to your life to stop eating eggs. It's a mitzvah. Right? So what Hashem is telling you is, you want to be close to me? You want to have an experience of me in the world, in your life? So I'll tell you, this is how to do it. Okay? If you don't do it every day, and we're going to learn that, right? Or if you don't do it in the right time, won't have the ability to impact that part of your life the same way. It can't work. Choose. Do you want this impact? Do you want this reality? If you want it, this is the way to get there. Is the only way to get there? No. Because a person can have these type of concepts come through lots of experiences in life, right? But he's telling you a consistent, solid, healthy way to get there daily. That's not so complicated either. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. So the meter that would push a person to do what you're saying is that I got to do it because I'm scared otherwise. Because if I don't, who knows what's going to happen? And the meter that would push it the way I'm talking about is like, I want that totzah. I want this thing to come, this ramification of that life. Right? So the same way a person would manifest and they want to have a certain thing in their life. So they pick a system where morning and night they'll read a card and remind themselves of the goal they set. So that by the end of May, I'm going to produce a song, right? They chose that because it has to do with their goal.
Right.
So if we have the first beginning of the Torah always is that we have a relationship. There's you want a relationship with me, right? Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher tzlitzcha me'eretz Mitzrayim. We're in a relationship. You were makabel the fact that I'm Elokecha. If you don't want I'm Elokecha, then there's no reason to start this whole thing. But if you want that I'm in your life, then you should know this is the system. You should also know that if I'm not in your life, it's going to hurt because I am in your life. Right. I am Elokecha. And therefore, whatever you do is going to make a huge impact on me.
I like that. Yeah, that clarifies it. I was missing perspective.
So it's really cool how everything depends on belief systems. Everything. If you believe something, then that's what you live. If you believe like this, that's what you live. So the perspective you're talking about is totally mishachrer. It's like, wow, I'm in a loving relationship. He wants to help me be matzliach as much as possible. And he's telling me, look, this is the system. This goes this way, this goes this way. I mean, you choose.
Right.
The main reason why we don't have this perspective is because our parents used the force method. Because that was their understanding of God. So they said, no, you got to make your brachas. You can't eat that. I don't let you. You got to keep Shabbos. Got to put on tefillin. Right? As opposed to telling us, look, first of all, I want to tell you something. There's Hashem. And he wants an intimate relationship with you because he loves you. And he wants to give you all kinds of great stuff. How does that sound to you? Well, what kind of stuff would he give me? Well, I'll tell you. This type, this thing, right? Oh, okay, that's cool. Right? He's nice and sweet, loves you. Great. Okay, now there's a system how to get there. Okay? Because every time you want to have a relationship with somebody, you get a relationship. This is the type we'll get there. But why the hell does he care about that? Oh, I'll explain it to you. Because this makes the relationship look like this. Tov. All right, I'm interested. I'll do that. That's the way we should teach kids. And when the kid comes and says, you know what? That sounds stupid to me. I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. I don't want to do it. Okay. Because you're a Baal Bechira. That's what Hashem did for us. Why should I do that for my kids? No, you have to keep Shabbos because otherwise, right? Now, I will admit that it says in the halacha, in the system of chinuch, that there was a strong-armed approach to doing chinuch. I'm suggesting that is matim for the generation they were in. Because they lived in a life that they accepted what was the reality in front of them with force, because that was the life they were all living. And it's like, let me tell you what needs to be done, okay? You need to get up in the morning and work to your job because you have to bring in food, right? So
right.
You got to do this stuff, okay? No choice. That was the whole energy of what was going on. Because people weren't living with meaning. They were living with what has to happen for survival. But as we're coming back to Eretz Yisrael, and the whole change was an intimate relationship now we're working on now. Now it's not a question of Eved, it's a question of Ben. Now it's not a question of, we're now going to be in a loving marriage as opposed to feeling like we're divorced. Then there's different expectations, different expressions. And then people have to be able to process their own situation and make decisions on their own, or else it's not going to happen. So chinuch has to be teaching and not controlling. Yeah, one thing at a time. Okay, so now the first parsha of Kriya Shema for me is a message of I'm involved in your life, and we can do crazy stuff. We can take you out all your problems, but there's a system. Pesach is a very huge part of the system. Those 7 days, the beginning of the year, they're superpower. You access them, you got superpower. You don't, it's not going to work.
Right.
It's like people tell you that there's a certain time of year where you can make good deals, and that's when people are interested. And the rest of the year, they're not. You got to go to the shuk in Leipzig on a certain time of year. You don't go there. You're not going to get all that stuff, right? You don't go to the place where they're trying to whatever. I don't know how the business market would work, but I'm sure there's a time of year where it's like this is where people are investing. A certain quarter of the year. Okay, now there's a second message, which he's telling us about Bechor. Okay, and he's telling us that you should know that your Bechorim are mine. Which means they are connected to me as they're the ones who have a service, they're the ones who have a job that is the point that the first thing I thought about when I created the world was this job, right? And everything else comes after that. So when I set up the world, this was my goal. This is the number one. After is number two. That's who you are. And the way you appreciate that is because the way I treated Paro, in that I took away his firstborn, tells you about yourself. That's who you are. I wanted him to experience what it's like for him to have his prize, his main child, his hemshich of his whatever he's doing in the world. Those are mine like that. So I think the major message that this parsha is giving you is to understand the nation and the head of the nations, the firstborn of the nations, what their role is in the world. You are the ones that are created to be my shlichim, the ones who bring my ritzonos into actualization. Like the Melech has certain people who do certain special jobs, secret jobs or important jobs, because they know the plan of the Malchus. That's what it means to be a Kohen. That's what it means to be a Bechor that's supposed to do Avodah. That's who you are. Even if you're not doing it, practically, you're not in the Beis HaMikdash. That's who you are. And if you live like that, right, and you realize your potential, then you'll obviously do many more things.
Right.
So it's a chizuk, it's a realization that, wow, okay, I am the Mamleches Kohanim B'Goy Kodesh. And that he wants to put us Oz Ayodecha, Ulatotafos Bein Einecha. So we have two words over here that are different. Before we had Os Al Yodecha, with the Yodecha was written with just a one chaf, and here it's a chaf and a hey, right? And before it said Zikaron Ben Einecha, and now it says L'totafos Ben Einecha. Okay, so that's a huge difference. Now, Chazal say the word Yadcha over here means Yad Keha, the left arm, the weak arm. Right? So where would you intuitively put the message of your power on your strong arm or your weak arm?
Strong arm.
So then it's kind of weird, right? Hashem's telling you, you know who you are? You're mine. Okay? Take that power and do stuff. So why am I putting in my weak arm? Why am I putting on the arm that is... What else does the left represent? It's a less expression of giving. Right? Because there's chesed and there's gevura. right? So gvur is like, no, you know what? I'm not going to give you so much. I'm going to give you according to what you created. I'm not going to dump on you, right? You're like a woman is a gvura. It's like, I'm close to you to the degree that you put in, right? A mother's mechanech. Right? It's like, you know what? You clean your room, and then that's how I'll treat you. I'll treat you that. You don't clean your room. You're acting not nice. We're not going to be so close. That's how a mother teaches a child, right? So the left arm represents, first of all, weakness. But weakness doesn't mean only physically. It means that there's not as much strength of giving in that arm because it is a job of resisting. Right? It's a job of giving the other person the place to be in the world. Okay? So I would suggest maybe that the reason why this sign has to be on that arm, right? Because your godless, the fact that you are mine, the fact you have a job in the world, is dafka expressed in your weakness. Because in your weakness, you are not fixed, you're not shalem, you need to refine yourself, right? And that is the place where my work is. The work of being strong, I don't need you for. I need you to fix the broken places. That's your job in this world. To bring or to the place where there's choshech. Where there's or, so there's or. I mean, that's the Hashem. Hashem's chesed in the world. The whole world is chesed, right? And that's not going to change. The place where we operate is in the places where He didn't do chesed, to make it, to bring out our job, which is to make it holy, to make it where it can be fully expressed. So we have to put it on the left arm. It's like, yeah, you're weak, right? That's where your message is. That's who you are. The ability to take weak stuff and still do stuff. Now, with totafos is a really weird word. Okay, we don't have any word in the Torah, any word lashon kodesh that has anything to do with totafos. Right, so it's even difficult to translate. So, how many parshas? How many batim? We know how many parshas there are in the thing. How many batim, places where the parshas go, are on the tefillin? In the tefillin shel rosh. 4. How do we know that?
Because we have 4 parshas, so like we made a house for each.
Okay, well in the tefillin shel yad there's only one. So how do we know that? That's why if you see the charitzim on the tefillin shel rosh, right? That's because it's coming to show you that there's 4 different batim. But in tefillin shel yad there isn't supposed to be. Right? So how do we know the difference between the two of them? So Chazal say 2 different things. Tana Rabbanan, it's a Gemara in Menachos and Daf Lamed Daled. Okay? You want to see the Gemara with me inside?
Yeah.
Here, pull out that small Gemara over there. The hay.
Not the big one.
That's fine. Right, so the Gemara says Tana Rabbanan. What does Tana Rabbanan mean? The translation of Tana Rabbanan means we learned in a brisa. Right, we know we have Mishnayos, which is the Misorah, the Halacha, the Shulchan Aruch, right? Blanket. Then we have additives that are coming to Mefaresh and Marchiv and to add to what was in the Mishnayos. Often what it adds is the Makar in Torah Shebichsav for the rules that are written in the Mishnah.
Right.
Now, before we even read this, there's a very basic question which everybody should ask, which is if there's a Mishnayos, and we believe that those Mishnayos are given Moshe Sinai. Okay? And all the halacha is written there. So basically we know exactly what to do from the Mishnah. So why in the world is it necessary to have it also in the Torah? Why is it important that in the Torah Hashem sent some message through what's called drash to the same halacha that he told Moshe Rabbeinu on Sinai? What's the point?
Well, I think like the over halacha Moshe Sinai is mentioned somewhat in the Torah, no?
No, some of them are not. Some of them are just like tzoros, the mashal. The fact that chatzi nezek you pay, and tzoros you don't pay chatzi nezek. That you pay chatzi nezek in tzoros as opposed to nezek shalem, right? Or all kinds of halachas. Halacha mishmi Sinai. Like the Gemara says in Menachos, Rabbi Akiva was darshaning halachas, tili tilim halachas on the tagim, on the crowns of the osios, and Moshe Rabbeinu had chalish sadas, and they asked Rabbi Akiva, how do you know this? And he said, halacha l'mosh Sinai. There's a lot of things that are just Misorah.
Right.
So why is it, what's the point, wherever there's not a Misorah, wherever there's a Misorah, what is the point of saying some things in the Torah? So to me it's obvious that since the Torah is coming to teach me, in general, the whole Torah it's what it's teaching me is how the Mahalach Eloki, the whole plan, the system Hashem put into the world. Right? There's creation, there's the Avos, there's going to Mitzrayim, there's the Mishkan, all kinds of ideas of how Hashem is relating to the world. And we're supposed to learn basically the midos, the musar, the rationalization, the philosophical concepts. That's what we're supposed to pick up from the Torah. So to me, it's obvious that if the Torah has in it a halacha through certain words, it's trying to not only teach you the halacha, but it's teaching you the philosophical, meaningful growth that is supposed to come out from that halacha. What are you meant to gain from this? What are the midos? How does this make the mahalach, the process of Hashem putting into the world, happen? That's what he's going to teach you in the words. Okay, that's what I would assume. So every single time I see a drasha, like, okay, but why is that the drasha? What's it coming to teach me? So let's see. Tana Rabbana. Litotafos, Harikam Dal, the Rabbi Yishmael, right? If you go in all the parshios that we're learning, except for the first one, so both when we just learned about Bachar, and then we go on in Parshas Kriya Shema, right? The last words, Hoyu Totafos B'Neinecha on this page, and then again when we go in V'Hoyim Shemoya, all of them say the word L'Totafos B'Neinecha. Only one time it says Zikaron. Okay. So, and then Chazal have a drasha that, if you notice, there's a huge difference in some of them. One of them, which is the one by Bachar, is written differently than the other ones. Sorry, the one by Bachar, the one by Bachar is written with a vav. The one by Shema is written without a vav. And the one over here in Kriya Shema, in Hayun Shema, is also written with a vav. Okay? So Chazal have a drasha where they say, it's kind of a difficult drasha. It's explained in the bottom over here, in the Shita Mekubetzes. He says, there are 3 psukim written. One of them is chaser, and one of them is malay. You see the os and zayin, right? So, l'totafos, l'totafos, trehari. Sorry. Elegoran vav the totafos. What does this mean? What does this mean? I'll look in Tosfos over here. See this Tosfos? B'shma b'yim shema ksiv l'totafos. B'vohoya kiviyach ksiv u l'totafos. Right? So, in the Chumash that was in front of Tosfos, both Shema Vahim Shemoya had Tosfos without a vav, and then only Kiviyacha had with a vav. So then it would make sense. The drasha of Chazal, there's 1, 2, Totafos, and then the third one is 3, 4 because it has itself, and also an added vav to it to tell you another one. That would make sense, right? And Aval Bein Pei Lataf. Sorry. Aval Bein Pei Lataf. The last one, Lo Ksiv Vav. Now he says, "Tema hechi mashmi trei." How do you see the word? The fact that it's a vav means 2. If you have yamin and gorin and mosif and v'dorsh and yicha, well, I'm going to say now. V'lashkachan elam mitchilas teva, sof teva. Okay. Let's see. Mefarish Rabbeinu Tam. Yeah, let's get to the point. The vav kamal totafos mukminan besof ki ilu ksiv ula totafos. Right? Letotafos. Like it said in the word plural. Instead of being totafos, which is 1, now it's like 2 totafos. The vav moved to the end. Okay? Okay. Anyway, point is, Rabbi Yishmael has some kind of drasha, which it sounds like he's saying that 2 of them written yachid. Totafos is a singular, Totafos is a singular, and the next one is plural, so there's 2. And that's where he learns there's 4 batim. Okay? Rabbi Akiva, Omer, Eino tzarech, tat bekatfi shtayim, pat be'afriki shtayim. The word totafos, which is a difficult word to translate, what it means is, it's taken from a different language, which is, one is a language of pat. And sorry, tat is a language in the place of I forgot where it is. Do we know? Tat be'afriki. There's 2 languages. I don't know if we know which language it is. One of the languages in the Shivim Umos, the word tat means shtayim and katvi, and pat in Afriki means shtayim. Okay, so we have a language of katvi and a language of Afriki, and each one of those, there's a word for 2. One is called tat, and one is called pat. So the same way we have shtayim in our language, they have tat and pat. Now this is super weird. There's a lot of questions for it. First of all, isn't the Torah written in Lashon Kodesh? And secondly, if you're trying to say 4, just say 4. This is extremely clear that Hashem wasn't just trying to tell you the rules. I'm trying to give you a concept. I'm trying to tell you a point. Why is there 4? There's 4 because there's 2 and 2. And these 2 have what to do with Katfi, and these 2 have to do with Afriki. Now, it's probable that what Chazal say, I think the Shloah Kodesh says this, that it's not that the Torah is speaking in Afriki, because the Torah is Dvar Hashem, and Dvar Hashem should be Kodesh, and should be something which comes out as a source, and all the rest of the languages should be a translation, should be derived from Lashon Kodesh, right? That's what it makes sense that it should be. So they say that the fact that it says tat in Afriki is 2 is a siman that also in Lashon Kodesh the word tat means 2. It's another way of saying 2. Because the reason why in Afriki and Katvi, tat and pat meant 2 is because it started in the source of the world, right? In the source of the world, the same way a shulchan was called a shulchan, and therefore people, when they translated it, they said table, right? So really, in the creation of 2, Hashem used the word tat and pat. And the Goyim, therefore, because that was what was in creation of the world, they also indoctrinated that in their language. And our spoken language, it wasn't the main thing. The main thing was doing shtayim. So it was forgotten. It wasn't something which was actualized in general speech. But in the makar of creation of the world, one of the concepts of two that was created was use the word tat and use the word pat. And the energy that we're trying to accomplish in our tefillin of having two in two relates more to the words tat and pat than the word shtayim and shtayim.
So that is the meaning of a word?
Say that again?
So that would be the meaning of Totafos.
Right. The word of Totafot is you have a tat and you have a pat benenecha. What is a tat and a pat? Two parshios together. And a pat is two parshios together. Right? And that's what you put on your head.
Right.
Now, what's striking to me before we understand anything, is we're going to see this later in the Gemara, we think there's four batim. There isn't. There's a group of two and a group of two. Group of two, if they have different names, then that means they stay separate. They stay as this group and this group. As opposed to if you said four, right? And probably even if you said shtayim v'shtayim, right? Then it would be 2 plus 2 is 4. But by calling them different names of groups that are both an expression of shtayim, but you're not calling them the same. You're not saying tat tat. You're not saying pat pat. You're saying there's two different types of two. Then it's teaching you that each group is one message, and each group is another message, right? It's a message of two and a message of two. And you need all of them you need the two of them to work together. The groups of two to work together. As opposed to saying I need 4 elements, I need a group of two and a group of two. And if you wanted to understand the omek of what the difference between the first two and the second two is, the word tat is a good way of discussing the energy and the idea behind the first group. And the word pat is a good way of describing the energy of the second two. Make sense? So if we really want to understand the power, the creation of the two parshios, so what they're meant to accomplish on us, we would be smart to analyze the concept of tes, and analyze the concept of peites, of peitas, and we'd be able to understand more about how these two parshios impact us and what they're meant to do. Okay? Rabbi Nachman has another, he's throwing in something over here, which is something to think about, is that he's saying that the fact that these ways of talking spread to Africa and to Katvi, and they're still discussed in Lashon Kodesh on the Tefillin, is a very deep message that even this tribe in Africa, or in the tribe of Katvi, where you don't see the level of Elokut, the level of Gilui Hashem you have in the Beis HaMikdash, right? You see them looking very different. You should know that the words of Hashem are equally there as they are on your tefillin, because they're using the same structure of describing two as Dvar Elokim Chaim. So that shows you how far-reaching Dvar Elokim Chaim is, and that's also part of the message of tefillin. The part of the message of tefillin is, at least in the third two parashiyos, so Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that He's in every single place. So that's why Rabbi Nachman adds this idea that it's not Stam and Afriki and Katfi. But I still think there's, before we get to that type of a drash, I think it's indicative, the word tat and the word pat, for us to understand what each power of these osios are, of this matter. And I think in order to really work that out, you have to understand what the osios are. You have to understand what a tes is. What is the message of, see, otiyot, if you think about how your process of speech is, right? So you have to have machshavot. But machshavot, you can't communicate them unless you have some kind of structure, right? So the structure, first of all, is based on raw materials, which is called otiyot. And after you have otiyot, you can put them together, and you can create the expression of a concept, right? So that's really the mashal of the whole creation of the world. That when Hashem envisioned the world, right, and He didn't yet create it, and He created it by speaking it out. In other words, giving it over to us, right? The structure, the atoms, the makeup of how it possibly could be given over is based on these kochot called otiyot, which means otiyot have in it all of the power of creation, in that there is certain ot, and you can combine them, Hashem combined them to give over, to create this path of creation, because it's this ot and this ot together. That's what the Chazal mean, Yodea haya Betzalel tzaref es ha'osios, shebo nivru shamayim ba'aretz. Betzalel knew, when he created them in the Mishkan, he knew how to take different otiyot, put them together to create, like Hashem did. So otiyot really are a spiritual concept that when you, each letter has that concept in it. When you mix the letters, you come up with a new concept, which is a derivative of these concepts together. So if you really want to understand the two of Tefilin that is described in tet, then we'd have to understand what a tes is.
Right.
And if we want to understand the spiritual concept of a pei tuf, I mean, that's already a tet is like ikvi, the same idea, right? But a pei tuf is two different concepts. Right? So the reason I say all this is because it's also only necessary on the Rosh. On the Yad, there's no discrepancy has to happen. The messages work together. So what I'd like to do is, as we learn the Parsha is over, keep this in mind, the fact there's two groups, and that the fact is what the OCOs mean, we can look into the otiyot, and understand why the first two are the same ot, the last two are two different otiyot, right? And why all of this is only necessary in the head part, not on the asiyah part, on the yad part. Okay? And I like to leave it. We drew the seeds, but now let's see as the learning goes on what we can develop from it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'd like to do in the last 10 minutes is I'd like to hear what you gained from the concepts that I gave over about learning Chumash, about learning Gemara.
About Chumash and Gemara?
Or whatever you got from this. I'm just not directing, I'm just saying.
Well, I understand better the concept between saying things in order for you to remember them, or like choosing to do things because you want to. Is a concept like I've been getting clearer at a lot recently.
Great, cool. Okay, and you understand what I was trying to give over about how drushos work, that they're not just coming to tell you information, they're coming to tell you point, midos, reasons.
Yes.
And you understand how, when I'm bringing out, there's there's bias A and bias B. Take a look in the Gemara.
I understand that. I didn't want to elaborate on that because I still don't understand what the difference between them would be.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like once we go further and go through the concept properly, I'll get it more. But I understand that there's a difference between like.
Take a look at the Gemara in the Hemshech, in the bottom of the page. It says Tana Rabbanon. About 5 lines on the bottom. Ketzad Sidra. Okay, what's the order? So Kadesh Li, Oikaviyacha. Then here's it says the Bryce saying interesting. Mi Yamin. Shema v'haim shemoya mismol. Now, how do you translate that?
The differences, like, you have the first two pashas, which is basically talking about Tzism Shrine and coming to the land, and then you have like the pashas from Shema, which is talking about mitzvahs.
What I'm asking you is the word miyamin, mismol. How do you translate those words? These two pashas are miyamin, and these two pashas are mismol. How would you translate those words?
Well, I don't know. Are you looking at it from the front or the back?
Good question. So pick whichever direction you want, and then translate it. The Gemara is going to talk about the point you just said, but I'm not even stressing that point yet. What I'm stressing is what does mean from the right and from the left?
I don't know what the meaning is. Is it related to why we put on the weaker hand?
Maybe. Well, we'll see.
On the sides of his brain.
But here we have 4 batim, right?
Right.
Four categories. Okay. So minyamin, that's easy to translate. Okay. So we have kadesh li and vahaya. Okay. Now, what does it mean mismol?
Like, do you start from the left-hand side or?
That's right. So you could say it means like this: Shema, vahaya. Okay. Well, that would be interesting because they're not in order of the Torah. There's another way to translate it. It means Shema v'haya, which is an order of the Torah,
Right.
but it's telling you this is miyamin, and here's where the small starts. In other words, it's going to tell you there's a yamin side and a small side. It starts by Shema, but there is 2 sides. There's min and small. Okay, this is the machlokas where you have Tefilin Rashi Rabbeinu Tam. This is the machlokas.
Right.
Rabbeinu Tam says that you start Shema from this side, mi small, v'haya, and Rashi learns that the word mi small means that the split head is split in half, and now this is the small side, and you do Shema v'haya Shema on the small side. But it's extremely clear, no matter what sheet you're talking about, this is not 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a huge gap in between here, right? This is yamin, this is small.
Right.
Okay, no matter what you're going to do, which is fascinating because we know there's a left-hand side of our brain, a right-hand side of our brain, and they do 2 different types of brains.
Right.
Right? So we see that also in these words, right? There's tat, and there's pot. Okay? So pot is the left side. Tat is the right side. And obviously these parshas, we're going to go learn these parshas now, they obviously have to do with the left side. And these parshas obviously have imprinting the right side. So I think it makes sense, first of all, to notice that there's a pattern between the last 2 parshas as opposed to the first 2 parshas. They work together, right? And also that one has to do with yamin, one has to do with small. And that is, again, nirmaz in the words tat and pot.
Right.
Okay? So I think that's going to be cool. When we learn the next 2 parshas, we'll keep that in mind. We'll keep out the discrepancies in these parshas, and then we'll see what these things mean to us. And of course, all of these halachos, the point of them is that because it's this way, they make change in us. In other words, the messages that have to go into us, when we're conscious that there's 2 groups of messages, and they are impacting different sides of ourselves, they make an impact better. Right? We're not stam learning to have, oh, that's cute, right? We're trying to make an impact to the mitzvahs. So when we understand what they're trying to do, what they are, they have more of an impactful koach. Cool?
Yeah.
I'm excited. Okay, we're going to call it a day.